Hi, my name's Lindy Giusta, and I'm an artist based in New York from California originally, and I'm thrilled to be doing this interview tonight. I would love to share a little bit about my art background. I started creating art a little bit in college, and as a kid, I loved it, but I didn't like heavily pursue it. I was busy with a few other things, and it wasn't until 2016, around 2016, 2017, um, so about 7, 8 years ago now, and I was going through a really challenging time in life, and um, because I'm neurodivergent and queer, there was just a lot of things I was struggling with, and somehow I just started drawing one night, and I just couldn't stop, and ever since then, it's become pretty much a daily thing. I feel kind of like naked when I don't create. It's such a big essential part to my well-being, and it's so much a part of me that it's just hard not to create. But I'm very lucky that I stuck with it, and I'm a stubborn person who, when I set my mind to something, I go full force. I used to create mostly just black and white portraits and animals. They were very rudimentary now that I looked back. I recently looked back on some phone photos and was a little embarrassed, but also proud of myself because I really put myself out there. And I grew up in a really religious house, and I believe there was a lot of black and white thinking, and not a lot of room for color and gray and nuance. And so I think that affected my art now that I thought about it tonight, because I only did black and white for several years, and I was so scared of color. I didn't know how to mix it. I didn't know. For some reason, I was scared of it. But then when I started using it, I don't remember the first time, but I just gradually like fell in love with it. Now color is a big component of my art. Um, but the biggest thing that I would say defines my art is my capturing of humanity, and it just happens to often fall on the expression of the portraits I do. I do a wide variety of mixed media, and I use everything from charcoal to gouache, pen. I'm kind of bold and start with pen. It's rare I start with pencil, which I realized the other day. I was like, wow, that's kind of risky because it's permanent, but nothing's quite permanent art. I hated a piece I did last night, and before you know it, I loved it, and it was a triceratops, but I thought I'd ruined it. So you just never know where art will lead if you stick with it. But how I see the world, and how it impacts my art, I think being an outsider in many ways and someone who is very authentic to themselves, but also when I started creating art up until I really moved to New York, I cared so much about what people thought of me and was terrified because a lot of people thought my art was too dark. But I posted it every day on Instagram anyways, even though it created a lot of anxiety. And now I don't even think twice. It's like, if it's dark, it's dark. That's not a bad thing. And my sister, who I really admire as an artist, she's been doing art for 25 years now, and it's equally as important to her in just different ways. She does very large abstract paintings, and her name's Kelsey Overstreet, and so she's taught me a lot about art processes, and she really uses her body in her art, where I'm more focused on my mind. But we both get different things out of art, and it's really fun to see the creativity that all my siblings have in different ways. Um, but yeah, Kelsey's been one of my biggest influences. Um, Not because our art is similar or I have learned many techniques from her. It's mostly just her passion, her drive, her brilliance in art, and all that she's taught me on like how to get through hard things. I think the hardest thing about being an artist is the vulnerability of putting yourself out there. It's like sharing a part of your soul with the world, and people react strongly to art, which I was told by Kelsey is actually a good thing. If people don't like it, if they're horrified that it's too dark, it elicited a strong emotion, and that means you're creating a reaction through a piece of your soul, and now I do see it that way. Um, and so it's a lovely thing. Of course, I love it when people love my art even more. And I do get some strong reactions of people just falling in love with it, and it's such a beautiful thing to see people resonate with my art. And I do animals as well, not as much as I do portraits, but I find often it's like half and half. The people are either obsessed with my animals or my portraits. Sometimes both, but usually it's one or the other. Um, but those are my two main subject matters, but I mix it up a lot. I like to challenge myself all the time, um, with subject matters, with mediums, with poses. I get scared of something all the time. It's my anxiety. Like, I was so scared of working large. And finally, last year, I did some consistent large pieces, and I really loved how they turned out. And it was really fun. It was much more of a mind body dual experience, because you really get your body working into the piece, and you have to just think so differently. Kind of like when I work on black paper with white pen, you have to just morph your mind into a different way of thinking. But I don't want to be stagnant. I want to constantly be growing. That's a part of my personality. And moving to New York has really inspired me. There's creativity at every corner. Every night of the week, there's a million things I could want to go to if I had the energy. But there's just beautiful art, street art, great food, music, everything. So that's been lovely. But it is a hard place to survive. So there's a lot of ups and downs as well. Um, Lately, I've been wanting to explore more with like mixed media. I really like I really like doing fine art and then uploading it to, say, Photoshop, and adding like really wild graphic overlays on top, where like you can tell it's still fine art, but it has like this crazy pop to it, or maybe like a photography element, or it's been really fun. I also am not great at video, but I love mixing spoken word and art. I like to write as well. Um, you name it, I like to try it. But these hybrid pieces have been really have really excited me. So yeah, that's where I'm at now. I would love to do a memoir one day of my life, illustrated, like a graphic novel. That's a big goal of mine. I don't know if I'll ever get to it, but I did create a children's book one day. So, like I said, when I put my mind to something, I often do it. So, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'll hold myself to it. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed hearing my process. Have a great night.